pama systems governance ari kuapplywa in the whole world. If we are to change from democracy into monarchs, we will be going backward. We will be retrogressing, because kwese kwaine democracy before they had these monarchs. Now the problem with monarchs ndeyekuti it imposes leaders on people. We will not have a choice. You could choose our own leaders, like in democracy. So zvinoitwa nemamonarchy ndezvekuti there is a certain family that is ordained, or anonzi naMwari ndo mambo wenyu, whether rikauya riri benzi, whether mwana wake rikauya riri asingafunga asingaite sei, but because ane a certain lineage in his blood, that person will always be your leader. So I think it will be going backward. Democracy, the problem with us in Zimbabwe is we are applying democracy in a very wrong way, but EU system of democracy where we choose our own leaders is not a bad system if it is applied correctly, because it allows us, if we are not happy with you, we'll give you a chance, but after some certain time we can vote you out. But in a monarchy, we are stuck with you. Whether ukauya uri a mad person, we are stuck with you. Maybe chingatomire kuti ufe tomirira mwana wako, of which I don't think that's what we would want to go if we are to progress as a nation and compete with other nations. I don't think that would be the good thing to do, because we'll be going backward. What I would actually suggest is, if maybe at a certain point we can have good governance in our country, we should even progress from having my chiefs a line rekuti ndeyo kwaningi votovoterwa kuti uyu chief akatadza in our village, let's vote another one. But it has to be done correctly. The only problem ndeyekuti isusu tajaira system ezano yekuti they are not applying my votes correctly and they cheat. But if democracy is done well, it's a very good system, because allow leadership renewal, allow if we are not happy with you, we can change you. I don't know if the answer, but I'll land there. Thank you.
Yeah, because democracy, even though we have that background, leadership that is teaching us to have that entitlement because of obviously traditional rights and iwewe kana uri mwana wa mambo toti mundoko wabva and then nationally toko kusarudza as president, well then behavior yako but is brought up under traditional leadership. Your behavior, your style of leadership, obviously you will see everyone as subjects, even though that does not agree to democratic, principles. And then you start to ask yourself, is there something missing that we're failing to understand or deal with as the people, without even having to discuss or talk about the current leadership, but between democratic values and traditional leadership values that we are still subscribing to. I hear you. I'm a Protestant towards subgroups. I didn't say I hate you, but I'm only saying can I achieve it, but it's still atisikuita sokuti ibva chief iwewe tinoda kutise uchu kana kuona takutoita izvozvo senge kwedu ndedzimwe nyaya dzatisikagona kuti titaure tine hondo dzeduwo, but that's not for this space. Now toti isusu ma-protests pamwe people are not happy but it's just a protest about service delivery, but not kuti uyu ngaabve kana this family. That doesn't happen. Munotoenda munogara pasi muchitaurirana zvakanaka as a family, muchiprova kuti aiwa uyu mwana uyu ndianoinda ndianokodzera uyu, poshedzwa masvikiro poitwa sei. All that is happening in our villages. But then when we go nationally, the very same charumbira iyeyo anoenda kuti ndaura kuita leader nationally. But chandakakura ndichiziva ini ndechekuti vanhu vari muvillage mangu masubjects zvinozopa here difference if I'm looking at you guys vanobva kwana Mutoko, vanobva kunana Mbembesi, kuti aiwa ava vanhu ava venyika vanofanira kurespecta zvakasiyana nezvandinoita vanhu vangu, havasiri vanhu vangu. So that's why ndameshera the issue of leadership from grassroots level, where we are coming from. Even the people that are also voting, it's very easy for leaders nationally to go and talk or give that impression. You could even my villagers, I don't want to pay some voter because he can come in and be friends with our chief. And once the chief is put in the front, chief or something, it's easy. That's why we find ourselves now. We are not dealing with ZANU-PF. We are not dealing with ZANU-PF. We are dealing with a system in a conflict. That system, even we need to pay this system. It's not kuposa. It's the system that they live, that they day to every day. Those are rama. Saka kana chief munachua as a politician. Ndaenda inini I'm a politician. Wacharumbira. Obviously, vana vachingoziva kuti mwana wemuno, asi ukaenda iwe as a politician uchibva kwagutu haungosviki, unoenda kuna mambo ndauya munzvimbo menyu munoda kutaura navanhu venyu. Patombo toita sei, tofa nenzara here muri panapa, ndimika mune mari kwamunoda kuti muchitungamirire nyika uko. Aiwa regai ndikutengere bhiya, mataura hatingangofamba tisina kubatira here, toziva muri vakuru. You get the point? So now democracy already ndopainotangira kufight up, because uyu politician ave nemari is buying the chief not leader traditional style, but ari kutengesera democratic values dzisiri democratic.
Mkoma Charumbira, can I push back there if you can allow me?
100%.
Okay. I think in your submission you are assuming that traditional governance or traditional leadership I quite democratic. Inogara iri monarchical, of which it's not. It's only in most African countries where our form of governance here, it's not traditional governance or traditional leadership. Iri monarchs or yema chief ine chieftains yekuti ine rudzi ne mamwe madzinza, which means exclude vamwe, choose certain families. But if you go into other jurisdictions like the American, the original Americans, the Red Indians, their traditional way of doing things I see based on a certain name. Maybe they choose the best hunter, the best runner, the best whatever. His name a prowess, which means if you die, they can choose another best leader depending nekuti varukita nezvei. They'll say probably this one is just. We are a justice is going to lead us, or this one is the best hunter, he can provide for our tribe, he's going to lead us. But in our African traditions, kakawanda kacho, we go with the name or the lineage. So that automatically that automatically excludes others who can be better leaders, but vasiri certain dzinza or name.
Before I drop, I'm sorry, let me respond quickly. The fact that you are mentioning, I assume traditional leadership can be democratic. I am a system zakatosiyana. The moment you get no, listen. Akasiyana. Why is it akasiyana? I'll give you a typical example. If you go to South Africa where our people are being attacked, look at the large numbers, the large group of people that are participating in Bama protests. Obviously, Zulus. Why? Because they believe first and foremost in their traditional leadership. They are actually it's in their blood. They believe anything that is to do with the Zulu nation. Apana noramba. So what I'm saying is, upon a reason of comparing or maybe trying to say the democratic style of leadership, our system, can actually be changed, or you can practice a traditional leadership which shandisa democratic system, or unoshandisa unogona kuchinja traditional leadership uchishandisa kuti ive democratic. Hazvisiri zvinhu zvinofambirana. Ichocho ndochokwadi.
Can you explain to me, because I can give you a good example.
Yes.
If we take away the name yekuti inini, I'm going to use your name, sorry. If we take your name and say inini ndiriwe kwa Charumbira, let's take away that, but topa a village setup where we are a certain village. We will say you are our leader, Mr. Charumbira, but at a certain point we will all gather. Maybe after 2-3 years, or maybe after my seasons, so we'll gather and say, are you still relevant? Are you still doing what we want you to do? Maybe you're old now. Then we can choose amongst ourselves to choose another leader, maybe of another name or another. Why is that not possible? Because we cannot always assume that as long as Muriwo kwa Charumbira, tichatoita maybe 10 generations, of which amongst malaini papa 10 generations pachauya vari beta, pachauya mapenzi, vese vanenge vachingoti leader isusu. So
that's what I was talking about.
Because every society inoda kuita progress. Muchiona vakazouya nedemocracy vanga vatobva kure vachiita zvemaking, and at a certain point they sit down and say, but no, us as the people, let's choose and totokupa terms, which is right. The only problem we are applying democracy in a wrong way. If you look into other countries where they are applying it in a good way, it works. But mukatariswa zvemamonarchs zvine kakufavor or toti takutofavor tinongori neline rekuti imimi ndimakachuzwa naMwari kuti
inini hangu Andrew hapana system yakashata. Chandinoda kuti titaure ndechekuti ngatichuze chimwe chete, system imwe chete. Kana tato democracy, that's democracy. Kana tato traditional way of leadership ndio yatoita. Azviite kuti nditi inini ndakakura ndiri mwana wamambo ndorambidzwa kuti ndiite president wenyika. Azviiteka. Asi kana ndaita president wenyika, inini ndichaona vanhu kana ndichitofamba kana even in parliament, vairashumba vanotondiomberera vachitodetemba mutupo wangu, and I expect that to happen to me everywhere kwandinoenda. Saka munhu wese kwandiri so I'm bringing my traditional way of leadership to the nation. That is not that is exactly what we are doing, because right now machifa tutoronezwa wewe. The answer to the very same president watutaronezwa ke oti ndiwe democratic akasarudzwa democracy. So there's a conflict. That's why we need to just pick one and say this is what we are going to deal with, so that kana tichikudza vana vachibva kudzikumisha vangoziva kuti democracy ndio zvairi. Kana wabva iwe uchikura unosvika grade 7 primary, they went a second of university, wangoziva democracy yakura sei, kwete kutokusvitsa kuuniversity kusvika kucollege kusvika kuti wanodzidza wanoshanda basa uchingodzi mwana wamambo. But kana wazosvika time yako kuti uchinotungamirira nyika, unototungamirira nyika, but also at the same time unoenda uine pfungwa nemakudziro wakaita, because unotonzi mwana anoteerera akabva kuvanhu. But issue time yekukampena iyaye, this is what is happening. Time yekukampena iyo iyaye, munhu anongouya ari politician kwedu kwachambira kwewewe, haangopindi kamudunhu asina kutaura nachief. Saka imimi chief muri kuti chii? Pati yenyu ndo yedu zvii, asi ingotipewo something hatisarudzi zvedu. Pamwe anenge achikunyeberai. Saka that process manje haisisiri democratic. Why I'm saying this, because already chief yautoshandiswa kunoti ataura nevanhu kuti vavotere this politician abudisa mari yakawanda.
So I think Mkoma Charumbira, where you are losing me, or maybe where we are losing each other, is if you want to apply Nyaya Trukutaurai to our situation in Zimbabwe, it doesn't work. Ngatingoitaura in general as a governance system. Tichitoti okay, ngatitaure sevanhu vekuBotswana kana kuti sevanhu vekuJapan or vanhu vekuti tirikuti isusu. And it actually works into the points that I was making. Kuti even if you are a son of a king, in a democratic setup, you are allowed to participate. If unokwanisa kutoita king, but kutoita president, but at a certain point, kana time yako yakwana, tinoto even uri mwana wamambo, tinotokubvisa kuti mwana wamambo akatomboita president, but time yake after 5 years dzatanda nyorera neconstitution dzasvika takatozomubvisa. But in a monarchy where we all say now tina king haabviswi, maybe anotobviswa nekufa, and kana afa iyeka tichatosiya mwana wake.
Kana akuramba akuintroduce zvinoita kuti asabviswa, because iye anobvuma kuti abviswe because nemakudziro akaitwa, akuramba kubva, but ari kuita a nation.
So in a monarchy, if a king abdicts, I don't know how to pronounce that word, kunototsvagwa lineage, tototsvaga maybe mwana wekobva mudiki, the first born, ndiye wachatomirira. Kana ari mudiki panotomboiswa a regent king or a queen or tete vambosara vakabata. Do we want to have that system? We can't. We if we are to compete with other countries in this world, in this competitive world, would rather have a working democratic system, especially a constitutional democratic system. The only thing is our leaders are not applying democracy the right way, but democracy is not wrong. It's the application of the democratic systems that makes it look as if it is wrong.
Anyway, all right, thanks again. Go drop at the interest general. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Mkoma. Thank you. Mkoma tapiwa. Mkoma tapiwa muripera. Asa no harare. Lisa, are you there?
Behold King Mtapa. I'm going to move on to the next phase.
Mkoma takes.
Yes.
Yes, can you come in nenyaya ngatisataurei zvedu naking Mutapa, ngatingotaurai nemamonarchs in general.
Akashati yakanaka angu mamwe ari ceremonial, mamwe ano involved.
But the fact that most of them are now ceremonial, it speaks a lot about their relevance. It means, the world is changing, and I am sure, had we been left to our own modes, the development, we could have come out with our own system, yet democratic, but but this idea of saying we've got a certain name, like in our traditional setup, where kana usiri wekwanhingi, no matter how good you are, but kana usiri zita rekwanhingi, you are automatically excluded from participating.
Yeah.
You understand? It's exclusionary. Obviously, it's only us, the humans, who don't look at the best of amongst ourselves. In the animal kingdom, the leaders are always the best. It's the best hunter, the fighter, or whatever. But we cannot just say because no matter how weak you are, so to our leader because you uneropa rekwaningi. It doesn't work.
So are you saying the gene pool of the leaders is weak? Is that what you're saying?
If we are to confine it to names and lineages, yes, it becomes weak. But if we are to look at a wide range in our society to say who is the best in this, who is the best in leadership, who is the best orator, who's the best teacher here, and amongst us we choose that you are our leader, then the pool becomes very wide.
So, all right, how do you measure weak and poor?
Maybe the performance.
What performance?
In your leadership skills, if we say your father was a very good leader, probably during his reign, we had peace, we had a lot of other things that are good. And then when you come in, you as Tex, then we see that you're a weak leader. You cannot make decisions, and because of your poor decision making, we are losing 1, 2, 3. Then we can say, no, man. Yes, your father was a good leader, but you are not. And we cannot just relegate ourselves to you leading us because of your name. Do you understand? Because every system in a mechanism to measure what a good leader and a bad leader is.
So are you saying those who are naturally selected in this case or selected in this case don't have adequate training to be good leaders? Is that what you're suggesting?
By naturally selected, what are you saying? Can you explain that? Because according to me, natural selection would mean us sitting down and choosing a leader. But if it is coming from a certain lineage,
Do you know natural selection, what it means?
yeah, in this instance, I don't mean that natural selection where we are choosing the best. In general, natural selection would mean the fastest of the genes. That's what we choose.
Okay, so then in this case, the naturally selected are the powerful, right? In this case.
Yes.
And power includes holding even lethal power, if you take it back into the animal kingdom.
Yes.
So are you saying you're going to remove that power from them to make them weak? How are you fitting in this model? Because if you take it, if you're taking the reference from natural kingdom, the fittest lion will take over, like the kingdom, the animal kingdom.
Yes.
Here, the most equipped person will take over, right?
Yes.
So how are you going to move that power?
How are we going to move that power, especially in the traditional setup? We can have the stronger leader staying as long as he can, as long as he is leading us, as long as he is using his prowess, whatever, he can stay there, but not according to his line, his blood. What I'm just against is the monarchical part of it, where we are saying, because you come from this name, or you hold this name, you are our leader. It's happening. If you see now, it's happening even in religious sects. Mwana wa Ningi will become the next pastor. It doesn't work like that, because somehow, somewhere,
wataura nepo enduro kuti chese chakutongoiswa on that line
on that
kana
line, yeah.
kana church patarisa yamarangi kana yadiki yamutendi
You see,
business makazoona kuzayonja kuti ibusiness
business.
saka
It doesn't work.
kana machieftains iwaya yamabusiness futi, because ukatarisa kuma79 Rhodesian government yairecognize 6 official chieftains. Now tave atinoti ikozvo zvitakusenzesa zita rekuti substantive kureva kuti anoreceiva mabenefits nemari takutosvika ku300 kuma280 something, but tikazoisa neasingareceive mabenefits nemari tosvika pa300. Saka it's very, saka unoshayiwa kuti pamwe akazocreatwa sei
How?
hawo. Saka ndo pane mubvunzo iwoyo unoda kuanzwa ipapo kuti why kwakangozocreatwa mamashifu. Saka haindirai ndaida kunongo kuti yereligion yamaisa yemachechi add up.
Add up. Even with politics, you might be surprised there's no kuti pamwe tichatosiwa nemwana waMnangagwa. Pavanhu vese vari muZimbabwe. You understand? I think democracy works. Democracy works. The only failure comes when we apply it in a bad way. Then we'll say democracy doesn't work. No, it's the misapplication of democracy that we are witnessing right now. But if you look at democracy in general, it works, because we are saying the people are choosing. That's why you find even in authoritarian democracies like ours, in a leaning to dictatorship, they will still sanitize whatever they are doing with an election, because they want to be seen to be saying it's the people who are choosing.
How democracy works? What do you mean?
Democracy as a governing system. Because what in democracy is the people who choose the leader, not the other way, not your family name, not utiona bakwaningi. It's the people. Takatogara
So your democracy is in the choosing only.
Yes.
That's a limited view of democracy.
That's the general view.
No, it's a limited view.
It might be limited, but it's the general view.
It is not the general view, actually.
What do you mean? Can you explain Kalamjita's general view? Because in this instance, I'm not labeling the type of democracy we are saying. We're just saying in general, democracy versus monarchy. Now it can be liberal democracy, it can be an authoritarian, it can be whatever, but as long it can be a constitutional democracy. It can be. It works as long as it is applied correctly. It works. And
You were Tansy, what's your definition of democracy?
Yeah,
Because
and
I think what is being said, I think he actually is describing the democracy as it is. And he's explaining that if it is applied correctly. So what is your definition of democracy?
it's a system of accountability and transparency.
Which is not there in ZANU-PF because
It's
they
there.
just no, it's not. There is no
Why do you
accountability.
bring in ZANU-PF?
No. Because I can see the way how you are trying to
We are not
explain.
talking. No,
You
we're
are
not
going
talking.
the ZANU-PF way.
We're not talking about
Your
ZANU-PF.
democracy is where people are beaten to submission. To you, that is democracy. To
If you want
me,
to,
that is not democracy, and to every right-thinking person, that is not democracy. You
that's the
don't beat people to
misapplication.
submission, and you
Yeah,
turn around to say it's democracy.
democracy does not work. It's the misapplication of democracy. That one.
That's true.
if you want, if you want, if you want to have a conversation around ZANU-PF, you can have that one on your own. You just disrupted the conversation that I was having with the young man.
No, I didn't disrupt. I just came in to highlight some of the things that are there, and
So why did
how you try to shift the conversation to mean something different.
I didn't.
That's exactly what you're doing.
Did you
Because
hear what I said? Did you hear what I said to you?
I did. That's why I listened first.
What did you hear?
What you said.
I said it is a limited view of democracy that takes into account what he has said to be accurate. Unless you skipped your English classes, then that's not my problem. I said it is a limited view of democracy.
And Mkoma Texinina was saying that's the general view, but then if we are to maybe narrowed down to certain democracies, yes, then it might mean different. But I don't think in this world there's any other governance system that has rivaled democracy, because all the other ones at the end they become
That's why I'm
autocratic.
asking you in what is your key performance indicators? What are your key performance indicators? That's why I'm asking. When you say rival democracy, we have to have a measure that we can agree on to say if there's stability in that country where democracy exists, and if what the people want is is peace, then that is a fit for purpose system. Do you understand what I mean?
I understand what you're saying, but do you know that every society is evolutionary. Every society wants to be progressive, and most of if you look into the ancient world, we had monarchs, and most of them they've evolved into democracies. I'm yet to see democracies that have changed into monarchs. They might be there, I'm not so sure, but there might be very few or none, because at the end of the day, a progressive state should want the involvement of the people. And if the people choose, then that state is bound to be happy. Because if the people is allowed to choose, if the people are allowed to choose, even if they make a wrong choice, they are allowed at a certain period to say, let's change this one that we chose. But if we put a monarch, or if Mnangagwa becomes a king, or Mswati, even if he makes wrong, we're stuck with him
Okay.
because he's a king. And there are no mechanisms in a monarch to change unless if we say, let's wait until when his son comes of age. And then if we discover that the son is even worse, we're stuck with him again until he has another son. But in any democracy, whichever democracy that you might think of, there are mechanisms of changing or leadership renewal.
No, leadership renewal is a natural phenomenon, whether you like it or not, right?
But not in a monarch.
But that's why I'm saying leadership is a natural phenomenon, right? You're not going to live forever. So the renewal of leadership by any way, shape, or form is just going to the biodegradableness of time will supersede you, right? So there is nothing unnatural around it. So you cannot say there's no leadership renewal because it's just bringing something new.
But surely Mkoma takes it. Sorry to push
But
back on this one.
but
Surely
allow me to speak. What you're speaking of is the renewal method, right? One seems to be more natural, as in death order. He decides who becomes and birth order. Death and birth order decides who becomes the leader. But there is still renewal, and there is also a training of that leadership. If you look, for example, young Prince George is already being trained. He's getting the best of education, best of is exposed to key decision making. What's it called? Key decision making platforms within the government and within the royal family, as it is, because it is the the Majesty or His Majesty's government. So, how do you then say this one is not a good leader when the natural system or the system designed for this individual is to, one, present him as a good leader, number two, also give him all the tools and necessary support for that individual to become a good leader? How do you say this one is a bad leader? And to answer your first question, and then you can come in. The Dutch Republic in 1815, right, moved into a kingdom, and it's still a kingdom now. It has got a royal family. So Netherlands was a republic from the 16th century until the Napoleon era, where it then it became a constitutional monarchy under King William. There is also the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. There's also the Russian principalities, the France briefly. So it is not uncommon. It has happened before, and I would think Dutch Republic is actually Netherlands is doing well. They've got the royal family there. I don't think they're
Okay.
yeah. So it is,
Okay.
we've got an example there.
So
That's what I'm trying to say.
yes.